Hello, everybody. Welcome back for another episode of the Max Off-Road Podcast Remote Rips Edition. Today, we have a very special guest on the podcast, Steve Hatch. Steve Hatch is as Haas certified as they come. He is a six-time ISDE gold medalist. He is a national enduro champion and just an overall powerhouse of a human being. Just such an inspirational person, especially when it comes to mindset and just the power of the mind. That's actually his program. He has a program called Power of the Mind. Him and his wife Denise Hatch. I've used this program. It's amazing. It teaches you the power of your own mind and the power to create and live the existence that you are choosing to live. It really is amazing, and it can be eye-opening. So this guy, Steve Hatch, has been a mentor of mine. He's been a huge inspiration. I actually trained with Steve back in like 2009, 10, 11 maybe, when I was preparing for my first 6 days. And I learned so much from Steve Hatch in terms of technique, mindset, getting into the zone, breathing, balance of life. Steve's just been an all-time mentor for me, and one of my other training partners, Taylor Robert, he's trained with Steve a lot. So Steve's just a super guy. I absolutely love him and his wife Denise. This episode was awesome. We talked about 6 days a lot. He's coming off doing some 6 days training camps with the trophy teams, and just this was my chance to kind of pick his brain and just get some mentorship and see what else I could learn before going into 6 days, while also speaking a little bit about other things that he has going on and techniques and things that he used to overcome obstacles during his career. I hope you guys like this episode. Steve's one of my all-time favorite human beings, and I hope you like this episode. Before we get into it, we got to give a shout out to our sponsors. First and foremost, Beta USA. Beta motorcycles have been such a huge part of my career. I first signed with them in 2012 as an amateur and won my first amateur endurocross national championship, and that progressed into basically a full-time career over time. I owned pool service business and other things like that along the way, but eventually I was able to step back from the working world and just focus on racing, and a big part of that was because the opportunities provided to me from Beta. So I'm a huge Beta fan, and I also absolutely love their motorcycles. I think that they have the best two-stroke on the market. Most of the riding I do favors a two-stroke anyway. I ride the 300 two-stroke for Endurocross and the 250 two-stroke for ISDE this year. So just thrilled with Beta. They're a family-owned company. They don't have any debt. There's no leverage with them. There's no BS. They take care of you. They have the best customer service. They stand by their product, and they do the best that they can. So you can't ask much more out of a company like Beta. So thank you, Beta. Slavensracing.com. Slavens Racing is my preferred retailer for all dirt bike products. You know, I have a lot of sponsors that I get free stuff from, tires, mousses, this, that, the other thing. But there's always odds and ends. There's a backpack, there's a pouch, there's a fanny pack, there's tools. There's always things that I need that I may or may not have connections with, or it's not worth it. That's when I just go to Slavens. They have all the stuff that you could want. They carry all my favorite brands: SXS slide plates, bulletproof designs, Plus tires, all the different brand mousses that you want, moose balls, Michelin mousses, nitro mousses, tubeless, climb gear, CD boots. They have all the things that I love so much, and they've been a huge part of my program, a huge part of everything that we do here at Max Off-Road. So massive shout out to them as my preferred retailer. These guys are by the riders, for the riders. They have a staff that's waiting for your phone call and waiting to help you with what you need. If you have any questions, what moose should I run? How should I jet my bike? What about my TPI KTM? What's the best setup for this? These guys have answers for you, and they are happy to help. So make sure you give Slavens Racing a call. Also, when you buy with Slavens, not only are you buying from a company that cares, but you're also voting with your dollar. These guys do work to keep our trails open. They advocate for multi-use trail systems and our rights as Americans to go explore our public lands, and that's very important to me. So when you spend your money with them, you're voting for the off-road community and getting what you need. Slavensracing.com. Also, we have Bulletproof Designs. Bulletproof Designs are all billet, American-made aluminum protective equipment for your dirt bike. I run the radiator guards and the rear rotor guard and the swing arm protector. These guys, they're so Haas certified. The whole crew over there is super cool. Bud is amazing. their parts are warranted. So if you break one of their parts, you can send it back to them. They'll send you a freshie without asking any questions. They're just super cool. They are enthusiasts. They come to all the hard enduros. And once again, when you buy from a company, you're voting for what they believe in and what they do, and they believe in the off-road community. So it's great to spend your money with companies that give back and are a part of the community. In my opinion, Haas certified, built aluminum, high quality, warranty. That's all. Bulletproof designs. So Plus Tires. Plus is a tire company out of the UK. They're focused on making the highest performing tires that they can at an affordable price. You can get them on slavinsracing.com or other places. Not totally sure, honestly. But Slavins will take care of you. They'll ship you out some tires. My favorite tire from them is the Plus Tough One. That is the sticky hot enduro tire that just gets so much traction. I absolutely love it. I love it. I love it, especially for the East Coast where it's slippery. That's my preferred tire. Excuse me. Also, Onyx Off-Road, I want to give a shout out to them. They're my preferred GPS tracking program. I love being able to go on my Onyx and zoom out and see all my different tracks from all over the world that I've been. That is such a cool thing to me. And being able to scan the terrain in 3D and actually see what the earth looks like is also a game changer. I like to, when my list is made for my next day and I go relax on the couch, instead of going on Instagram or something like that, a lot of times I'll just go on Onyx and I'll just start exploring the mountains around me or other areas in the Southwest, which I frequent, to see if I can find Indian ruins or other cool things like that. So big fan of Onyx Off-Road. And if you want to give it a try, if you want to give the Premier membership a try, you can enter code MAX15 at checkout and give it a try. Other than that, that's all we got. I hope you guys like this episode. If you want a piece of this sweet apparel, you may have noticed this Team USA 6 Days Italia edition hat. We got the mustache man on the side, of course, and the American flag charging forward on the side as well. Head on over to my website, maxoff-road.com. maxoffroad.com. We're doing a bike giveaway. I'm giving away my 250 ISDE practice bike. We got all kinds of cool merch, t-shirts, hats. If you want something cool, head on over there and I'll ship it out myself from this room. That's all I got. I hope you guys like this episode. Let me know what you learned from this episode in the comments, and have a great day. All right, we are live. We got Steve Hatch in the studio. Super stoked to have you here, Steve. I coming into ISDE this year, just been thinking about you a lot. Obviously we did a lot of foundational training when I was younger, and always such an inspiration and a great mentor. So I wanted to chat with you about 6 days anyway, and I saw you just did that 6 days camp, and I just wanted to pick your brain about 6 days and also just get a little catch up with you and see how things are going on your end.
Awesome. Well, it's always a pleasure, Max. And yeah, you know what you're getting into. So you're like quite a few of the riders that have been blessed to get to do 6 days before, and all of them are different. I've been blessed to do 8 of them, and then I've been blessed to work with the team and the trophy and junior trophy and women's team the last 7 or 8 years in a row. A lot of that was with Taylor and Ryan and the guys, but it's really morphed into really helping, trying to make the riders the best they can on all levels. But yeah, it's exciting. As you know, it's the camaraderie of the USA, all the pride that goes with it, all the preparation, all the time, all the finances. It's enormous. So it's really hard to even contemplate and really put into words, but you've done it. So that's the big thing. But for those that haven't, it's really one of the chances of your life to go and represent your country, for one, but for two, really the ability to prepare and to really do something for 6 days in a row is a mission. So you have to have the right mindset, you have to have the right equipment, you have to have the right body fitness, you have to really be plugged in and on play and focused all the time, all 6 days for every second of it, because it's so easy to make a mistake. Everybody thinks it's just the special test or just the speed or whatever. It really is everything combined, because you can be the fastest person, but if you can't get to the finish because of your bike or issues or blinking, if you will, mentally and smashing a rock and taking out your cases, you're out of the race. So it's a really big deal, but super fun.
Yeah, and you saying that just brought up so many questions I have for you. First off, for those that don't know what the International 6 Day Enduro is, it's basically the Olympics of off-road motorcycle racing. It's a 6-day dirt bike race through the mountains, and there's time checks that you need to get to on time, and there's also test sections that are added up at the end of the 6 days, basically, or every day, and whoever has the lowest score wins the race. And it is a Team USA effort. There's a trophy team, which are hand-selected, the best guys we have, a junior trophy team, and I imagine you were just working with the trophy guys at your camp. And then there's also, sorry.
No,
Is that who-
all three of them actually, the trophy, junior trophy,
Awesome.
and the women's team.
That is so awesome. And there's also club teams, and that's what I'm on. I qualified for a club team. There's 3 riders per club team, and each rider is scored individually, and also we're scored as a club, as a group. So I'll have 1 rider in each class, and then we race against the other club teams of the world. So that's kind of just a very general idea of how it works. And Steve, you're so right. It's such an opportunity to be able to go and represent your country and race against the best, because how many times will anybody ever get to race against the best in the world? So it's just such an opportunity. And like you said, 6 days long, you got to stay sharp all 6 days.
Yeah, Max, you're exactly right. And it's the Olympics of motorcycling. So it's the best of the best from our country, from every country. And then, like you said, it's kind of all encumbersome as far as like the ability to have the skills all the way around, meaning to keep your bike going for 6 days. It's a feat in and of itself. And then to pound mentally for 6 to 8, 10 hours, depending on the weather. And then the weather is a huge one. Some of the 6 days I've done out of 8 of them, some of them were easier because of the weather, and some of them were nightmares and so hard because of the rain or the weather or the heat or whatever. So it really depends on the conditions. But yeah, to your point, really you have to be a mechanic, you have to be a racer, you have to be smart, you have to be able to flick on, I call it light switch speed. You probably remember that. The ability to cruise at, 80, 90% of a top rider's ability during the trail test, and then get into the special test and just lock it in and flick it to full rage mode without cartwheeling, which is really tough, right? I mean, you're going for it.
Well, it's
So,
true. I mean,
all
you
of it.
watch like Joseph Garcia, and I've been watching all the content from the last GP in Wales, and these guys, they're so aggressive. And that's one thing that I was going to ask you about is, how do I come in, or do you have any advice for how one could come into day 1, test 1, and not overdo it, but also not underdo it? I mean, my plan, my goal is to start strong, but I also want to improve throughout the week, because the idea is to improve throughout the week. You're going to have more experience on the terrain. You're going to get to learn the test more. So I want to improve throughout the week, but I don't want to start too soft. And I also don't want to start too crazy and throw the whole thing away, because it can be so much excitement and so much buildup. So I think getting through the first day is probably, how do I build momentum on that first day without getting too far one way or the other?
Yeah, great question, Max. And it's tricky, right? It's like the old saying, you can't win the race on the first lap, but you can definitely lose it. So you kind of have to play the long game. You want to see, like, in your mental mind the whole 6 days and making it through the final moto and excited that you did your best race, whatever that is. So really playing it as that. You have to look at it as 6 races in a row, in my opinion, or at least what I did for myself. And as I learned, every day is a new day. You win, lose, draw, it doesn't matter. Issues, no issues. So just like keep pulling mental tear offs. If you're riding great, awesome. If you're not, it's all right. You got 6 days to figure it out, and don't, peaks and valleys the best you can. So just staying steady in adversity, for one. And then secondly, I had controlled aggression on my handlebar crossbar pads for most of my career, because it's so easy to override the bike and want to go faster. But a lot of times, the stopwatch never lies. So with a stopwatch, when you're going for it and you're sideways, and I call it now in my clinics, swerving Steve, it looks amazing, but it's not really fast on a stopwatch. So it's that fine line, but you're exactly right. It's finding the ability to be at your fastest pace. And I think from what I've learned in all of my coaching, and lucky to have guys like you and Taylor and Ryan and different ones from around the world, one of the things is you can start to learn when you're on that, special test, what is your fastest pace by actually going crazy, and then also going smooth, and then going in between, and then where do you go crazy and get away with it, and it's not the garage sale in the trees 4th gear pinned. But you still have to push it everywhere, and Everybody is at that race for sure, but it's like really playing the long game for the whole 6 days. And then, like you said, just building it. But I think you have to be on the edge, just not over the edge. But that's such a fine line. You're literally tap dancing the minefields when you're in those tests, going as fast as you can. But getting in the zone, picking good lines, attacking, all that stuff is such a big part of it, Max, as you know.
Yeah, totally. It is such a fine line. And I find looking ahead and being able to see the terrain coming, if you're not looking ahead, you're not pulling yourself into the terrain. So I find for myself personally, consciously pushing my vision forward into where I'm trying to go, as if I'm trying to chase my own vision of where I'm looking, like a magnet. I feel like that's really important for me. And, it's interesting to hear you say like, hey, listen, if you need to find that line, go find your line. You know what I mean? Go find your media, what's going to work. You know what I mean? And I remember when we first started training, you were saying, yeah, here I'm going to go about like 89%, but then in a situation like this, I'm going to go 95, and then over here I'm going to go 110. And I was like, wow, that's interesting that he knows his percentages like that. He knows what it feels like to go 110, what it feels like to go 87.6%. He knows what that feels like. And I think knowing that for yourself is important.
Yeah. Well, and a lot of that pertains or predicted by the amount of traction there is or isn't, right? So if it's icy and it's one of those things that Nisa, I'm on a podcast with Max. Thank you. Give her, she's in and out with the animals and the neighbors. It's all good. So really figuring out that traction, how much there is or isn't. And then once you figure out, if you override it, say it's the traction's 90% and you go to 92, you're on your head or sliding or sideways or not fast. So it's like really depicting where that is, and then realizing too, where you can make up time safely. And there's, as best you can, where if you're in a big flat grass track and you send it and you happen to overshoot the corner by 20 feet, big deal. You knock over a little ribbon, a couple stakes, scare a few spectators maybe, right? But if you're in the tight,
right,
woods and you send it and you overshoot a corner by 20 feet, you could be whacking some bark and breaking some bones. So you have to kind of know where you're at, and then where you're really going to send it, and where it's really risky to send it and where it's pretty safe to send it.
Yeah, like their percentages of the rate of perceived exertion is dependent on the conditions and where you're at.
Absolutely.
Or maybe you feel really comfortable in the trees, that's your jam, and you're like, I can go 98 through here right now. Let's turn it up.
Definitely. Absolutely. And where your strengths or weaknesses are, even the best riders might be a little bit better at, one of the tests compared to another test, and really realizing where you're going to be able to send it as comfortably as you can. You're still going to be on your edge, but on the other one, you might not have the bike set up as good or whatever it is. And it's not quite at 100% or confident. So you have to back it down and just be really smart to not bite you there, or to adjust it the whole time. And that's the other big thing. Riders of your level and everybody at 6 days that goes to those is obviously at the highest level of their abilities. It's really not being too afraid. You don't want to recreate the wheel, but not being afraid to adjust stuff, because you can usually make it better. You could make it worse, but you could make it better. And you got a lot of time to test it with 6 days of almost 10 hours a day, right? You got a lot of seat time that you're going to go, okay. And I think the big thing too, for a lot of you listening, I didn't know what the heck I was doing, but the big thing was, is it better or worse when you test it or you're riding? Obviously, ideally you wouldn't test during a race, but in the same, like, you got transfers and different stuff, you could click it around and make it a little softer, a little bit stiffer, figure out what it feels like out of the test. So then when you're in the test, you can actually know that you're going the right direction.
Absolutely. And like you said, is it better or is it worse? Keeping it simple in that way. Just asking yourself that question. Is it better or is it worse? Don't get too far in the weeds, because once you're in the weeds, then you're thinking about that when you should be riding the motorcycle.
Absolutely. That's the big one.
A question I wanted to ask you was, what, as a coach, as a retired professional racer and now a coach, what have you learned about 6 days or just racing in general that you weren't really able to see from when you were racing in your prime? Because I feel like as a coach, when I started coaching, I started seeing way more, and I had a different perspective on things, and I just, the perspective shift made it so I could learn so much more myself as a racer now. So what have you learned as a coach that you maybe didn't know when you were a racer?
Yeah, yeah, great question. I think the biggest thing, I think I was always pretty open, like meaning you could learn almost from anybody, which is the good one. I didn't have the complete blinders, but you really get set in your ways. And like for me, it was always usually training that was such the big deal that in my mental mind and physical felt like that was one of the big assets that I had. But I think being able to see different riders, different ways they train, what works for them, what doesn't. Like Garcia is a good example on the riding side. A lot of the riders now that we're coaching and I'm coaching, we're trying to mimic more of that, you know. And Ryan Sipes was really close to that style anyway. And Taylor, you know, was more a little bit on the smooth side, but that aggressiveness, like Grant Davis, I'm working with him tomorrow, and Cooper Jones and a bunch of the top riders, we're working on that stuff, trying to simulate it. It's like the Bubba Scrub, right? Back in the day, you're like, what is that? Holy cow. And that's awesome. So you have to be more adaptable. And I think you get that way, but you know, as a racer, what really works for you. So you kind of like, I honed in on it and stayed similar. I'd be open, but maybe not as open as I should have been. And then just try it. It might work for you or your body or your style, and it might totally not. But being that open, I think that's what the best of the best are. They're open to try it and then decide, instead of being like, no, I'm not doing that. That's just dumb, or why would that work? I was just testing a new tire today and I was blown away why I haven't tested it 10 years ago, you know. And it's a cheater tire. You know, these for like US hard enduro, but it was the Kenda Ibex or whatever, and riding some rocky terrain with some guys. And I was like, wow, this is crazy. It was technical and rocky type of riding the last couple of days. But, you know, that's just being a little bit of the horse blinders on and different stuff. So like just being open to that, I think, is a big one. It sounds like you've noticed the same thing when you're coaching. It really helps you open your eyes.
Totally. Yeah. And even getting people's perspective that aren't even in the industry or not even around it, it can be some of the most valuable perspective that you can get, because they're just seeing what they see. They don't even know exactly what they're seeing. They're not in the weed. They're not in the weeds, you know, they're just watching. And that is a good point. I feel like I've learned that a lot of people, you know, even if it's little stuff, there's always something that you can learn from people. And I found it to be harder to take that in during race though, because it's like if someone has constructive criticism for you during the race, it's a little bit harder to accept than not in a race situation. But with time and wisdom, you learn to be more open and understanding that, hey, these people are my mentors. They care. They're just trying to help me. Whether their advice is good, bad, or indifferent, they're here for the effort.
Yeah, during the race, not a good time to take in anything besides racing your race. So I'm with you. But afterwards, good time to say, hey, what can I do better? What am I doing good? You know, you remember a lot of the stuff with me is like, few things, 3 things you did good, 3 things we can improve on, and really keep working and have a track record to know where you're at and what things you don't need to work on. Those are 8, 9s or 10s on your scale of the spokes coming out, and other ones are 2, 3, 4s, and those are where you need to put your time. Fastest way to improve is work on the weaknesses, as you know, and as you being a coach and a past racer and now back into racing, you get that, and I think it's a huge blessing. So it's fun to see.
Such a blessing. I'm so excited and grateful. You know, I was thinking when I went to 6 Days in 2011, when you were training me and coaching me and mentoring me then, you know, that was at the very, very beginning of my career, really. Now I've kind of built my career and had done it for a long time, and now I'm going back for my second ISDE. And, you know, when I went in 2011, I was working at Discount Tire 30, 40 hours a week, just working to try to afford it so we can go, and, you know, not complaining. I'm grateful for that as well. You know, it was a completely different thing from what I'm doing now. Now I actually have time to put in a full training camp, to actually work on my weaknesses, to actually take a week and say, okay, what can I do with this week to make the most amount of progress for 6 days coming up. So that's been a new experience for me for 6 days anyway. That has been completely new and been awesome. So grateful for it.
Yeah, that's really neat. I'm excited to see how you go and what you've learned and just the difference of those. That's a lot of time and a lot of years and a lot of growth and expanded. Like they say, you know, the mind expanded never goes back to the original size or shape. And you've had all this wisdom, and now you're doing it with a lot of knowledge. Back then, you were doing it with a lot of, you know, energy and excitement, which is great.
Yes.
And that's how we all do it. And I wish, you know, like they all say, wish we could go back and know the knowledge we have now than back when we were coming into our peak of any sport or business, right? Like it truly is. You have to go through it. Just like we were just talking before this, you have to learn all these things of how to run all this stuff. There's no hotline. There's no cheater line. There's no fast way to get rich or to be fast or to be fit or whatever. There's no shortcuts. You know, it's rolling up the sleeves and putting in the effort. You know, I love the saying, and you know all my sayings, but you can make it happen or you can make excuses, but you can't do both. So you better decide. So like the best of the best just figure that out, and they don't even know excuses. They're just like, yep, you're right, or I'll try that, or I'm going to do that, or whatever. And they just make it happen. So like yourself, which is awesome.
Yeah, 100%. And it's so true. You know, you can get up and start moving towards a goal or something that you want, or you can not. And it's just so simple. And like you said, there's no shortcuts, whether it's making money, being successful on the motorcycle, having a good relationship with your partner, whatever it is. Like you say, you got to roll up the sleeves and you got to get to work. Not that that's a bad thing. I think that, like, for me personally, I love all that. I love working on stuff. I love making my life better. You know what I mean? Oh, we can sit down, we can talk, and we can make our lives better. I can go ride and be a better dirt biker. I think that, you know, the idea of work almost has like a bad thing on it, but it's great.
Absolutely. Well, and I think too, to add, you're absolutely right. You know, I think the lucky ones, if you can do what you love, you'll never work a day in your life, even though 98% of the people I know that are successful, be it business or relationship or education or sports, they work so hard and there's no off switch, you know, but the work is fun, right? It's your passion. It's your purpose. It's effortless. You do it no matter what. Like if you just had free time, period. So I think that's the cool thing. It's not work as in lots of effort or pain. It's actually working and going forward. And like you said, loving the challenge and sinking your teeth into it and going, I want to be better tomorrow than I was today.
Yeah, absolutely. What was I going to say? You said something that hit, but I forget exactly what you were saying. What would you change if you could go back to ISDE? Like, what would you do differently?
That's a great question. I think, yeah, all of them I did 8 in a row, and all of them had learning was the big one. Each one, right? You never arrived. I figured out some systems, bringing, you know, depending on the country, the right food and that stuff like that. And then secondly, preparation was everything. So even setting up day 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in the hotel room with all your gear, all your stuff. So you just fall into it out of getting up in the morning, showering, getting into your gear, like all the stuff to make your life simple. You've got all this time, energy, and effort before those 6 days start. Do everything in your power to be prepared and not have to lift a finger, besides being focused on being present, racing the tests, and keeping your bike going, and just really being right in the zone of being present for each and every day, every second of it. Yeah, I don't know. A good question. I don't know if I would do anything more. Maybe I would have changed a few of my style of riding, potentially. I know back then the guys that were winning had a little bit different style. So maybe a little more open, you know. I think style is kind of your style, but I think I should have maybe worked on that a little bit more. I mean, I did. I created and watched tons of it, you know, everything, videos of these guys back then even, but and then, yeah, just going faster always, right? No matter what is
Yeah, well, of
what you
course,
always
we
want to do.
all like to go faster. I remember what I was going to say before. You know, we were talking about working on your life and your pursuits, whatever those pursuits may be. And, you know, the desire to work on these pursuits is such an important thing. Like if you want to win races, like the desire to win the race is more important than any other attribute that a rider can have. And it's that same desire, that same unshackled desire that can put athletes into these red zones of, oh, I didn't do well at the last race, and then train, overdo it, and then come into the next race tired and overworked. I know that I've done that. I know that you've done that. A lot of people and still do it. And, you know, knowing how to tame and manage and have the wisdom to understand what that desire is and how to handle it is also important. I feel like, you know, instead of I have a week in between, instead of doing 3 big days, I'm going to do one good day focused on the specific things that I want to work on. That's been a big part of my growth, I've found.
Absolutely. And having good people around you that you trust that can really take a 30,000 foot perspective and go, all right, you know what, Steve, you're being a knucklehead. You're mad because you didn't win, and now you're just burying yourself and you're gonna make it worse, you know? So I think that's such an easy one. And statistically, over 90% of pro athletes, I've heard this statistic a few times, overtrain. And it makes sense because you start here, train a little, you get here, you train a little more, you get here, you keep working your way up.
Yeah.
Sooner or later, undertrained by 10% or overtrained by 10% is still not perfectly trained at the pinnacle of the mountain. So I always overtrained, and people were telling me that for years and years and years. Most of my career, actually. I was kind of hard-headed, I guess. But that is really listening to the wisdom of people and figuring out what that is for you. I agree with you 100%.
And how have you learned to manage that? Because there's multiple ways, right? Like, for example, Colton Haker, he hates heart rate monitors. He hates data. He hates all that shit. He's like, dude, just let me go ride my dirt bike. I know what I need to work on. Let me go feel it out. If a certain day I'm not feeling a certain way, I'll pack it up. If I'm feeling fatigued, I'll pack up. If I'm feeling great, then maybe I'll do some extra laps today. He goes off feel. A guy like Taylor, that dude is Mr. Data, Mr. Numbers. I want numbers to tell me what to do. And I don't think there's a right answer, but what was right for you, and how can somebody find what's right for them?
I did it both ways. I did it with just the redneck mentality, pin it to win it, and train my butt off and running hills and out in Arizona, where I ended up finally living out there by you guys in wetsuits at 110 degrees before National Enduros, just doing stupid stuff because I was like, nobody else is doing this because they're not that dumb. But I ended up winning the race and thinking, you know what, mentally and physically, I was to myself tougher than the other guys. So that worked for me for a while. Then I did get into all the data and all the Garmin and all the latest watches and all the computer stuff. In that worked for me also. I think just whatever works for you, try maybe both. Now I'm back to feel, but I know my body so well now I can be within 3 to 5 beats on my heart rate as far as knowing where it's at. And I think you learn that. And I think, with any of it, sometimes you just want to keep it simple and just ride your darn dirt bike, right? Like you said, and like Colton was that way. I know Taylor really liked the stopwatch all the time and heart rate monitors and all that. And all of that's great. Whatever you think works for you, just because you hear of people, and I had great teammates, and I realized about halfway through my career, I'm like, it doesn't matter what they do or say or think's great for them. They're not me. And I end up changing suspension, different stuff to set it up more for me. It turns out it was way better. So like I should have done that earlier. They had the number 1 plate, I had the number 2 plate. So I was like, well, it just makes sense. I just try to mimic what they're doing more, but I should have paid more attention, I guess, maybe earlier.
That makes sense. Listen to your own gut a little bit more and just kind of gone with what you felt was right for you, not based on who was winning on that bike or whatever.
Exactly.
It's so easy to do that too. You see Joseph Garcia
Right.
on the rev limiter. Next time I go out to the track, dude, I'm on the rev limiter in the air. It doesn't matter.
Exactly. Yep. 100%.
What'd you carry for tools at 6 days? Like, what's a recommended tool pack?
Well, I know you and your dad are the tool men as far as James Bond of cool stuff. I saw your pack, and I think you bought all those new things that you did a thing on, which was cool, and what you put in your crate. Everything you possibly can and nothing, right? So light. You guys taking your pack off usually, or it depends, or some do, some don't at 6 days during the special tests. So that's, you got to decide that. But kind of make sure the biggest thing I see, even with a lot of riders and really good riders or even pros, a lot of times they have a lot of stuff in there that didn't even fit their bike, or there's like one part of their bike that maybe use that tool. And if it's not one that hardly ever breaks or comes loose, like I wouldn't pack that, I think the really easy ones are obviously the zip ties, some tape, some wire, all those. A guy today put a rock through his case. I had JB Weld in my pack, but I'm carrying pretty much a lot of stuff nowadays because I don't really want to walk out of the woods. But at 6 days, you want to be light, and I had just a little like lightning packs that had just the bare necessities, like make sure you can take your front wheel, rear wheel off, make sure that you can get to a lot of things. The common, simple multi-use tools are fantastic. And the screwdriver that does all of it, flips around on both ends, and
Yep.
and then it also can take apart different things on your bike. So all that stuff. But I think make sure you know what you have is the other big one. Because a lot of people have a lot of stuff, but they can't find it. And if you can't find it or know what you have, then you're kind of chasing something around that doesn't make any sense. And I'm guilty too. I've probably built 20 or 30 fanny packs in the last, 35 years. So I'm like, dang, did I put that in that fanny pack? Or when they're getting all confused in my mind now, I'm like, what is in here anyway? Digging out of the stuff. So I think just keep it simple, but make sure it fits your bike, and then make sure it's something you're probably going to need to use. And then see if you can take your bike apart is a good one that I used to do before 6 days, and put it back together with just your fanny pack.
That's a good idea.
And if you go walking over to your big toolbox, you're like, should I try to see if I can put this in there?
I need to figure out an axle wrench. That's one thing I need to figure out. Beta's went to a 30 millimeter nut for 20. I know. I'm like, bro, where do I find a lightweight 30 millimeter axle nut wrench? Yeah.
You get your drill out and start drilling the sides of it and make it lighter.
Yeah, exactly. I think I'm just going to bring the full one that you'd get from a hardware store. I just carry that thing across just make a statement with it.
Is he carrying a pickaxe? No, he's got a 30 millimeter.
Yeah, that's just his axle wrench. Yeah, his 24 millimeters in his backpack. He carries that too. That's really good advice. Maybe some heat tape or something like that in case you got an emergency. And the idea of, I like to drop my stuff before I go into a test section because I want to feel as lightweight and as athletic as I can. But if you need 8 millimeter or something like that during the test, then you don't have your stuff with you. So I don't know. I was wondering, like, maybe in under the seat or something, if I could just carry a little pouch with like an 8 and a set of pliers just to get me out of trouble if I really need it or something like that.
Great idea. I've done both. Usually if the team or I wasn't, way up in the results, I'd definitely get rid of the fanny pack. Sometimes once you get way up in there, or when we won the junior trophy in 91, we were carrying our packs in every test, and we lucked out because I can't remember, maybe Chris Smith derailed its chain on a rock or something and had to take the wheel apart and put it back together, and thankfully he had his pack with him. So it's like anything, it's give and take, because you're like, well, I don't want to carry that, but in the same, sometimes that you go to the insurance policy.
Totally. Yeah, exactly. As the stakes get higher, the insurance becomes more important, right? What about walking the tests? Because obviously that's a huge part of the event, is you're walking for a week straight beforehand, you're trying to remember all these tests, and it can get blurry. There's an art and a technique, and there's a skill in walking and remembering the test. I feel like that's one thing that Taylor is really good at. That little guy's got a memory on him, and he can memorize the test sections really well. And I think all the top guys are doing that. So do you have any advice for walking the tests? Do you try to remember specific points, like, oh, there's this little tree right here. When I see that little tree, push wide. And how do you remember all the tests? Because I feel like after a week of walking tests, I'm just going to be like, okay, another turn, more throttle.
Yeah, but if you have lots of throttle and you're going in the wrong line, it doesn't really help you, right?
Exactly.
So I agree with you. I think, in my opinion, besides obviously real speed, 90% of going fast at 6 days is memorizing the test, hands down.
Wow.
Yeah. So those guys, and thankfully I was very photographic memory like most guys are. So by the end of my career, I could remember a 10-mile GNCC and every line, the inside, middle, outside, where I was going to pass a lapper, what was in there. I'd crawl around those tracks. And if I, had any advantage from day one, it was from memorizing that and being able to. But you have to start slow. It takes time. It's like anything, right? It's like going to the gym one time and you expect to look like Arnold Schwarzenegger. It's not going to happen, right? It takes years to build it. So I was taught and learned walking the start of the test and just visualizing it, but then walk like one turn, know where you're going to be, the second turn, know where you're going to be, the third turn, and then go back to the start, shut your eyes, and accelerate off the start just like you're really doing it, go outside, then sweep left, then inside on the second one, wheelie the dip into the third one, and then walk 3 more turns, and then go back to the start, go off the start and do the first, second, third turn, and then third, fourth, fifth, sixth, and then go back to the start. And you have to do that, or I did, the whole time. Maybe you can start to go 5 or 10 corners, but it starts to get blurry. And then the other thing I would do, even back then, now you have GPS and different stuff, but I would try to draw that and write, okay, day one, you know, grass track, here it is, and draw it the best I could, and maybe read some of the sketchy downhill on 20th turn or whatever. Make sure once you do that tight right, it drops off the big downhill kicker that you need to jump to the right to clear the log or whatever. Highlight some maybe bigger bullet points too, but you'll be surprised. And then keep reading, rereading all of it, meaning visualizing it and looking at your notes, and then really doing it again. And I always say, and I just told this to the ISDE, trophy team and them, when you can memorize it better, that 1 second gain by not overshooting that corner is actually cumulative, because hopefully maybe there's 5 seconds, but you're 5 seconds faster because you memorized it. The next lap, you'll be even better because you actually raced it. So maybe it'll be another 1 to 3 to 5 seconds faster than that. So if you're starting at, say, 10 minutes, but you could knock it off to 9:50, let's say, right out of the gate, compared to starting at 10:45 and knocking it down some, it's a whole different deal. By the time you end the end of the week, the whole cumulative is 2, 3, 4, 5 minute different compared to seconds. It looks like, oh, I was only 3 seconds off, or, I was sure out a couple, but that was, 4 seconds, but what? Well, 4 seconds, if you were really memorized it, those are free seconds in my opinion, just because you're more precise. So I was adamant about it. I think that's why the 6 days, Ryan Sipes and I were just talking the other day, he loves 6 days. I know Taylor does and did. I think it's just that challenge and being right at the precipice of right at your limits and testing your knowledge. Can you actually, knowing that line's one thing, but actually hitting it at speed and consistently, instead of hitting it once out of 100, can you hit it 95 times out of 100? So knowing that, but also having the skills to implement in that good line the whole time on every test.
That's really insightful. And it sounds like what you're describing is a compounding effect. If you can remember the track and you can actually hit your lines, you can hit that line hard because you remembered it and you can commit to it and you can hit that line, then you might not just save 1 second. You're going to save 1 second. You're going to save, that's going to continue to compound over the 6 days, because you're going to be able to improve on, instead of improving on a 10:05, you're improving it on a 10-minute test, and then you're 9:50 or whatever. So it's like you're able to keep getting better and better. And also, if you hit the line that you want, chances are you're going to be set up for the next corner better. So you're probably, if you lose 1 or 2 seconds in a corner, or even half a second, you're actually losing more than that, because now you're not set up for the next corner. So you lose half a second here, now you're going to lose a half a second at the next one, and then that will compound as well. So getting in your line and apexing your corners right is key to not wasting time. All right, sorry, we had a little technical difficulty there. Should be back up and rolling. Hopefully the sound is okay. This is all experimental. This is just 2 dirt bikers trying to make a movie. Okay. I am not a rocket scientist. So for remembering the test sections, would you recommend carrying a little notebook or something so that I can make notes about it? Hey, 4th turn in, there's a drop off with a dip. Make sure you hang on the right side.
Absolutely. Yeah. Anything that will help you. I mean, you could take a photo of it, a video of it, notes on it, put this in at the 2 mile mark or whatever. Because you're right, it's definitely confusing. So you really need to kind of compartmentalize, in my opinion. And then definitely, and I know usually they work them backwards, meaning closer to day 1 and 2, due towards the end of your walking. So those are fresh in your mind. But by the time you go all the way back to day 4 or 5, 3, 4, 5, you're going to be like, oh man, I barely remember the start, nevertheless, every turn. So you want to go back in there and then every night reprogram in and revisualize those 2 tests for sure, or those tests that you're going to have that day.
That's good. That's good info. And one other thing that makes walking tests hard is by the time I get to the test section, I'll be the first test, I'll probably be like the 600th or the 800th or the 400th rider through there. So it's going to be beat by the time I get there. So when it comes to visualizing, are you more focused on visualizing the feeling that you want to have through that test section? Just like, yeah, or are you visualizing specific exact lines that you're trying to hit, or a little bit of both? Because what if you get there and the line that you were wanting to hit is no good? I guess that's kind of what I'm kind of saying. Like visualizing a fight, it's great if you want to visualize taking the guy down and then putting him in a choke, but what if he takes you down, or what if you get punched in the face first? How do you adjust for that? You're like, this isn't what I visualized. What do I do now?
Yeah. So both. So you want to visualize it with your eyes shut, and in my opinion, also exactly in the tone of the bike, the gear, everything, but it's all habitual. You're not like, oh, I'm in second gear or whatever. You're just like riding like you do. So don't be thinking, oh, I got to be in second, but you can hear your
Right.
bike, where your braking zones are, the traction, the off camber, everything about it. Now you're right. Once that happens and then 600 people go around it, like they say, like Mike Tyson says, everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the face, right? So that goes out the window, but you can't just throw it all to the wind also, meaning like, oh, well, it's not even close to what I walk, so I'm not even going to care about any of my lines. There'll probably be distinct lines, obviously, and maybe those work. I mean, look at Garcia's a good example. I know he gets to obviously go first, but he's doing his own freaking thing there. He hardly ever rides anybody else's lines. I don't care if somebody's ridden it once or 5 million riders have ridden it 5 million times. He's doing his own thing. So, and I know that's a whole skill in and of itself to cross over those, but he doesn't really care where everybody goes. So I'd still try to go where you want to go. Sometimes you're right, like there's a 3-foot rut and there's no way you can even get in it or out of it or whatever, then just hit the main line and be faster. But a lot of those, he's hitting it at such an angle that that's the only reason he can go over them, because he's not hitting them or setting up. He's setting up totally differently. Some of it you have to obviously adjust as you go for sure, but some of it just looking ahead and scanning, especially when you're going down those straightaways. I mean, obviously you're trying to look where you're going, but if you can be scanning and know where the corner goes, know it's off camera, and know there's probably a berm, but that berm might be way over, especially if the guys that rode it and gals miss the turn totally. You might be able to, go wider and cut in sooner and be way up on the off camber next to the ribbon instead of halfway down or against the far ribbon. Looks like the fast line, but it's the slow lines. Yeah, adjusting. Taylor was brilliant at that. I mean, all the top guys are, but really looking ahead while you're going down those straightaways, just a little. You don't have to stare at it, but like, oh man, it looks like they blew it way out. I need to slow down more and cut out of this thing.
And always searching for that ribbon, that next inside ribbon, trying to see how tight you can keep it on the exit. It seems like keeping it tight on the exit is usually best to square you up for the outside of the next corner. If you come in tight, exit wide, come in tight, exit wide, then you're just kind of caught in the main line a lot of times. But even if that does happen, like you said, you need to be able to hit all the lines just as fast. So it's like if you get caught in the main line, rip it. Give it everything you got. It's okay. It's not perfect. Like, okay, let's go. Let's hit this thing as fast as we can. A little chatter, some braking bumps, whatever. Blast this thing.
Yeah. No, you're totally right. That's a good point, Max. It's the old paralysis by analysis, right? You're like, yeah, okay, Steve, inside. Oh, no, there was big outside berm. You can't decide. Once you decide, then make that line happen and hit it as fast as you can. So, like, just give it a quick once over, maybe, if you have to, but then decide and be all in. I tell riders at clinics like you're coaching also, and I'm like, if you're going to hit that mud hole, hit it as fast as you can. I mean, worst case scenario, you endo and cartwheel, but if you barely hit it, you're definitely going to be stuck in the mud hole, right? So it's like, You're not all in, then you're just not going to even have a chance of making it through the mud hole. So same with lines. I see it all the time, especially at even GNCCs, especially because they get really rough and people can't decide when to go. I call it the pro line, like you're saying, from outside to inside to try to miss the rough stuff. It's not rocket science. Most go in and drift out. Like you just got to, and then you have to have enough enough of an angle, just like watching Garcia and all the top racers. They're at enough of an angle that they're crossing that pretty easily. Ironically, it's the same arc. So if you have like an S turn, it turns it from the inside to outside. Now, if you go outside to inside and in, it's the same exact arc if you lay it over top of each other, which is ironic because you're like, oh, that's a totally different line. You're like, no, it's actually the same line. And the last thing, I've been studying Garcia too, just trying to help everybody more. And, he doesn't think twice of hitting some stakes or pushing the ribbon out with his knee. He's in that grass where nobody else will go. So using those edges is huge because the main line usually, sometimes it can obviously get better depending on the traction, but a lot of times it gets worse. So he's looking for grass to get a little more traction quite often.
Yeah, it makes sense. Plus, if it's choppy in the main line and it's smooth in the grass, now you're accelerating and saving energy while the other guys are bouncing around trying to get it sorted out.
Yeah, and that's the huge one, especially GNCCs, which are really rough. The wheels are on the ground, off the ground, bouncing, on braking, turning, and accelerating. Then somebody with a moped can pass you doing the smoke you sign as they're going by you.
Yeah, exactly. With one hand on it. Yeah.
Barely on the throttle.
Yeah, what about butt chafage? Did you ever deal with that? I mean, I think, like you said, there's no shortcut, and I've been doing a ton of riding, so I'm not really worried about it. But if it happens, it can really change your experience.
Yeah. Well, luckily I didn't have that, but I did know a lot of guys that would do whatever, Vaseline or whatever they could do to make sure they didn't have the chafage. I usually wear like boxers, and I wore spandex over them, and then all my gear. So that kind of had two pads, if you will. But yeah, you definitely want to do whatever it takes to not get it. Same with blisters. A lot of people, I won't get them, I ride a lot, and then you start getting them. It can be a changer, especially 6 days in a row, especially when they pop or break. It's, you can tough it out. Obviously, it's not the end of the world, but it's a lot better if you don't get them, right? Same with chafed buttocks is not ideal to ever get to begin with.
Did you run like hand guards, or not guards, but like a second layer on underneath your gloves or anything like that?
Yeah, so I literally would tape my hands every morning and put it, over the blisters, and then around it, and then over the thumb, and make it so that they're literally taped to begin with, and then put them into the gloves. And I wore that every day from day one. Did I like it? No. But did I like not having real blisters that got worse after day 3, 4, 5, 6? Absolutely. So I was proactive instead of reactive. So I think that's a good thing in my opinion. I would definitely suggest doing that, and work at getting used to that too. You can definitely tape them too tight or too loose, or have them rub, or if the actual cloth tape has wrinkles in it, that can cause a blister, as we know. So really see if you can get it straight and good right on your palms exactly, and your thumbs. My thumbs were always taped. I would rip it in half, the actual tape itself, like the white cloth tape, rip it in half and just use like 3 times around, kind of light on both thumbs. But yeah, definitely taping I think is a great idea to begin with.
Okay, I might have to look into that. I don't normally tape, and I haven't really, but I don't know, maybe I'll tape or get some of those little like fingerless, low profile under the glove, like cloth gloves. I know Taylor used to use those. I've used them in the past for hair scrambles and stuff as well.
Yep. I think those are a great idea. I think on my YouTube, or you look up Steve Hatch taping hands, I'm pretty sure I've put one on there years ago. So you can see how I used to do it.
Perfect. Did you ever go to 6 Days in Italy?
I did. Yep. Way back. Put my age in here now, but
was it in Bergamo? Was it at that same place that we're going?
I can't remember the exact location. I know it was in northern Italy, around where you guys are going, way back in '97 on the trophy team. So yeah, it was cool riding, beautiful mountains, and I remember the scenery and the tests and everything were really neat. We went to Venice too, so you got to do the touristy thing. Ferrari's up there too if you're a motorhead, which I know most motorcycle racers are. So you can sightsee or see some of that stuff sometimes. Probably after the 6 days is a good time to do it. But yeah, it's beautiful up there.
Awesome. Based on what you know about the terrain, like what should I expect, or what can I go into thinking it's going to be like?
So definitely watch the videos from the world rounds and different ones over the years, or any 6 days or any of that, because that will help you a ton. I kind of remember as more like rolling hills and different things. It does have some mountainous stuff, but it wasn't crazy one way or the other. It wasn't like I remember as anything too different. I know it seemed like it was kind of middle of the road as far as terrain and stuff like that. It wasn't like all mud or all rocks or all sand or whatever. It was kind of decent, if I remember right.
Okay, perfect.
So not much help.
I mean, well, I think it's just like anything, you can watch videos, you can study, you can ask people, but at the end of the day, it's the same for everybody, and it really boils down to your ability to adapt and perform. It doesn't matter what the terrain is. You just you gotta sort it out when you get there.
Totally. And the heat and how dry or wet it's been will change even the exact same location, as you totally know. So you just got to adapt better than the other guys.
I sent mooses over there, like new mooses, but I've been riding on a couple of sets of mooses that I have here, and they're getting broken in. They feel good. Is it worth paying for the extra gear bag to bring a set of mooses and the seat that I've been riding with, like some specific stuff, just because then I have some options, right? Like a little bit more compliant moose if it's a little bit more rocky or something like that. I mean, who cares if I don't even use the new ones, right? What if I just use the old ones or use the new front and the old rear or something? What do you think about that?
I definitely would. Any advantage you can get mentally that's twofold in my opinion as a coach. You've got it, and now you got a choice because you're sitting over there in your hotel room going, dang, you know what? This new moose is so stiff and kicked me around on day one. And day two, you'd be like, hey, you know what? Whoever's helping me with changing the wheel, make sure I'm putting this moose in. And I try to really mimic it. A lot of the stuff I did, but really mimic my seat and race bike and camelback and fanny pack and all that stuff. So it felt like second nature. I didn't want to have to put that on just for the 6 days, because then you're like, dang, I forgot all about carrying this stupid fanny pack for 6 days. So like anything and everything you can do to simulate and emulate exactly what you're going to be into is going to help build that confidence and the feel. You want to have it feel exactly like it feels at home. So I'd do whatever it takes to get those over there, or pay whatever you need to, and anything else for that matter. A lot of people like, oh, whatever grips come on the bike. A lot of guys like rent the bikes or whatever they do over the years. It's like, man, no, you know what you like, just take it all with you. And I know the bikes are built by you guys, but in the same, it's like, if anything feels like your security blanket, in my opinion, take it with you. And you don't have to use it, but you've got it sitting there at the hotel, or you've got it there. I would definitely take it.
Okay, I definitely will then. 100%. How did your 6 days camp go? That looked like a lot of fun. I've been watching some videos. I watched a YouTube video of it this morning. It looked like you guys were having fun. How did that go?
Yeah, it was fantastic. We had a great time. Josh Toth ended up building a lot of the tests and the terrain, and having Madison Bumgardner, who's the ex-baseball pro. It was his property, and he's a big fan and really loves dirt bikes and enjoys that side of it. So it was super cool to get to know him and all of his friends and everybody, family. So it was a great location, great people. And then, yeah, Auntie and all the factory, mechanics and people and support. It's a big deal. And they really put on a really good one. Ryan Sipes, Cole Martinez, and myself were down there trying to help with the coaching. So that seemed to go really good. And yeah, it's all about, trying to put yourself in those situations. And then they were doing the tests and doing the special tests and, just with the same tires, the same everything, basically, as close as you can emulate. So apples to apples is what you're always after. It went really good. The riders are riding really good, in and out of some dings and bangs of all riders. That's just part of riding at 10/10. But they seem excited to head over, and that's the name of the game.
Excellent. Who's the standout guy right now? Who's got the fast lap times at the training camp?
Well, Josh Toth won the overall of that camp. Cumulatively, but Johnny Gerard's just coming back from some injury and different things, and he was fastest on day one. But part of the deal is trying to figure out, to be fast for that whole time and having that ability to be spot on. So all those guys are going fast, though. Definitely Josh, Johnny, Grant. I mean, all of them. Dante, Mateo. Everybody's a missile on those teams, to say the least, which is
savages.
Cool. Yeah.
Super savages.
Yep.
One question I just remembered I wanted to ask you earlier. In terms of starting the day and getting locked in for that super intense special test, because I think that's more, that's what I need to focus on, is figuring out how to go fast in the special test. I think everything else I'm going to be pretty strong at, like in terms of, just the riding, the endurance, getting to the checks on time. I think I have the most to improve in the test sections. So are there any specific tools that you use to lock in? We've obviously talked about mantra and breathing before. Is there anything beyond that or something that I should remember that can help me lock in and just get fully focused for the beginning of each day and for the test sections?
Yeah, I mean, it still comes back to just the breathing and getting set for those tests, like really emulate and visualize getting there and sitting there and being so excited and a line behind you and crowds and everything else. You really want to put yourself into that situation mentally right now. I mean, be 10 minutes in the morning, 10 minutes at night, visualizing being at that test so it doesn't feel like a deer in the headlights. And then secondly, really having a routine, the easy ones, really, 3 deep inhalations and exhalations, and then just saying your 3 words, fun, fast, focused, or, maybe it's hit your marks, smooth as fast, or whatever it is for your personal style. And then, have fun, we forget to have fun. Stress impedes performance. So one of the big things that people do, they put the gun to their head and go, okay, I got to go as fast as I can. It's the biggest show on earth. And that just stresses them out and makes them not ride. And they ride, strong and muscular and tight and everything else. And they're notchy and everything else. Just flow and have fun. Like visualize you just having fun on your dirt bike and flowing and bump and jump and, hitting the turns and just power wheelies out of them. Like everything why we ride a dirt bike, right? It really goes back to just flying around in your backyard. So I think that's the big one. Like it's the biggest show on earth, but in the same sentence, it's just riding your damn dirt bike,
100%. I love that. And becoming unattached from the result is for me, is like such a part of that. Cause like I want to ride like I'm free. I want to ride like I'm unhindered. I'm free. I'm in my purest form of myself. I'm having the most amount of fun. That's when you're going to get the results. But if you're going, I need to win this test right now, no matter what, and I'm going to try as hard as I can to do it, you're going to ride tight. You're not going to be looking ahead. You're going to be compensating with strength instead of smooth, whatever it is. So just like riding as if it doesn't matter at all. I don't even care. I'm here to have a good time. I don't even care. I do care, but I can't care too much because I'm here to have a good time and I just want to ride that dirt bike.
Yeah, 1,000,000%. And being detached from the outcome's hard, right? Because how can you do that? Because you want something so badly, you'd almost die for it. And yet in the same sentence, you got to be like, nope, not that, I can't be stressed. But it's really being able to just be present and racing your best race and your best test. And that's all that matters. When you do that, you get done with it, you're like, dude, I ripped that test. That was awesome. That was as fast as I can go. And that might be 50th, that might be first, that might be 200th. Like that is all that we go for. We live and die by the results because we're racers, but in the same, it's like that is why you're there. And if you just keep plugging along and keep trying to improve yourself and keep racing the track only, not the timesheets, and keep having fun and flowing and, adapting as much as you need to as far as how much attack you can do and get away with without being Swerving Steve, then that's what it's going to take is really, being focused and just day in, day out, test in, test out, just going and being in that your best zone. That's all that matters. Nobody else does.
Yep. 100%.
I've never seen anybody 2 up in those tests, riding double or in a race. I always say that. So it's like you're racing the track, nobody else, So it's always about you individually.
You can tell when somebody else has got somebody on their mind. Like, oh, so-and-so is we're 1 second apart on day 3. Like, I need to start stretching out of that lead. You start thinking about that other guy, he's already got you beat.
Yep, agree.
Well, thanks a lot, Steve. I want to be respectful of your time. But what are you working on lately? Like what kind of projects you got going on? What classes you got going on? What are you working on lately?
Yeah, lots of fun stuff's coming in the pipeline. So can't say anything yet, top secret, but we'll be letting you know soon. And it's some exciting big news coming forward. So yeah, we'll have to do another one of these or an update sometime.
Anytime you have any revelations or thoughts, give me a shout and I would love to have you on.
Awesome. I appreciate you, Max. And it's always a pleasure. And go over there and kick some buttocks in Italy. Have fun over there, would you?
Thank you. 100%. That's one thing that's guaranteed. I'm gonna have a good time. My family's going. My chick is going. Monica, you'll have to meet her one day. She's super cool, and I can't wait. I'm so excited, and yeah, it's good.
Fantastic. Well, and also, if you need anything, just give me a holler, give me a text, whatever. I'll help you and navigate. I get a lot of those during 6 days, as you can imagine, which is honorable because if you have some questions, love to help. I'm watching, literally glued to the screen going, all right, where is it? Every test, every video, anything I can see, I'm still there in thought process. So I'm all about it.
I appreciate it. Well, send all the best to you and yours and Denise and the family and all your riders. Hoping the best for you guys. And yeah, man, thanks again for coming on. And anytime you want to do it again, we'll hop on and do it again.
Awesome, Max. Thank you. Likewise, say hi to the family and appreciate you.
Will do, my man.
Take care. See you, Max.
See ya.